Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Question from Ziyu today, Z-I-Y-U. Can you, Coach Gu, show us how to pronate correctly? All right, stay tuned. So Ziyu is suffering from a little bit of tennis elbow, and he's thinking that it's from the serve, the pronation from the serve. Let me borrow Coach Gu's weapon here for a second. I'm sure those of you who are of a certain age have seen Pete Sampras with his signature serve motion like this, right? With that wrist way down, you know, after he snapped that serve, right? And so I believe he goes wham, and then he kind of finishes here, or even sometimes here on this side, on the right side of his leg. Now, when you do this, right, you actually hyperextend that. But when you do this and you bring it across, it's not as severe. But that snapping motion is what causes your elbow to hurt. Now, Coach Gu has a great, efficient serving motion that probably doesn't hurt your elbow, right?
No, not really, no.
Okay.
I wouldn't say so.
So I'm going to let Coach Gu show you the proper way of pronating your serve. So, Coach Gu, let's go through this.
So, when I think about pronation, I think about, if you guys watch any other sports like baseball and football, like they're all throwing sports, right? So when you think about how you pronate, when you throw a ball, it's like how I'll use this analogy for the serve because it's similar to the serve. So when you wind back, we're going to use this baseball analogy. So when we wind back on our serve, right? So think about if you're a pitcher, you're going to wind back, right, and get to this position. So basically, this is the position you want to be, 90-degree angle, right? Elbow up, wrist is in that 45-degree angle. And when you serve, you're going to let go. So basically, what's happening is you're going to actually relax your wrist. My wrist is actually not as tight as most pitchers. Like when you throw something hard, you don't want to grip onto your object that you're going to throw hard. Right, you're going to relax, and then when you swing, your wrist will actually automatically pronate, because when your racket drops and it goes up, what you want to do is make sure that when you're hitting your serve, it's in front, and therefore when it hits in front, the pronation already begins naturally. So when you hit through, I rotate it around and finish all the way through, right? So making sure when you're pronating, you actually want to make sure you're hitting your toss in front of you. If you hit it behind you, see how my wrist is going to be a little behind, because therefore I'm tightening up. So therefore I'm going to flex this wrist, especially if I'm hitting a flat serve. I'm going to flex this wrist, therefore it creates this pain, not shooting pain, but a long-term pain that if you hit it behind you, you'll start to feel like your arm or your forearm gets tight. So when you're hitting your serve, you actually want to make sure you're hitting the ball in front, because that's where it already starts activating your pronation. That's how you activate your natural pronation, right? If you see baseball players, football players, when they release in front of them. They never release behind them or in the middle.
All right, so let's get some balls, and we're going to try to slow-mo it as good as we can for you, okay? So hang tight. So as you saw, Coach Goo's serves, whether it be a flat serve or a kick serve, finishes kind of the same way. I mean, most of the time a kick serve, you would end, because you're coming across like this, you would end to the right. But Coach Goo hits it in a way in which he still finishes to the left. So how do you do that?
Basically what I try to focus on, I'm more of a natural feeling player. So what I feel like is if you don't complete your shot, it is the most unnatural thing you'll feel. So for me, I like what I like to do before is I used to actually go like this. I used to have tennis elbows, so I used to stop here. And every time I did, it progressively got worse and worse. And I told myself one day, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep going and see what happens. So what I found out was if I just kept going up and brushing up on my kick serve, right, I still get the spin. I still can finish a left. So therefore, when I'm hitting this kick serve, you realize I'm actually bringing it over to the left-hand side, right? That's how a racket finishes, right? It's like throwing a ball, right? You never throw a ball like this, right? If you throw a ball like this, your shoulder's going to give out, your arms are going to give out, your right shoulder is kind of gone, right? So you always got to make sure when you finish, you throw, you release, and you always finish on the other side because that's where your natural motion is going. So
Coach Goo, the three tips that we have to tell the people to avoid tennis elbow, server's elbow in this case. What are the three tips that we have to do?
Yes. Tip one is always having a loose grip. You never want to grip anything tight. Let's say you want to throw a fastball, right? Or let's say you're at a carnival game. Would you grip onto the ball tighter or would you grip onto the ball looser? Looser because it's actually more efficient and it feels better because you get you can feel your hands, you can feel your fingers on the ball. So it's the same concept on the serve. You want to feel and maximize your potential on your serve. So making sure you don't have to grip the racket like 100% hard. You can grip it about 60 to 70% and you'll still get the same effect. Even better results too because you're relaxed and you're allowing your wrist to be a little more fluid. So now tip number two is making sure when you're tossing your ball, usually you want to get your contact out in front. There's a reason why coaches say you must contact the ball out in front. Because if you get the ball in front of you, your momentum on the ball will keep going and your momentum on the swing will actually beat the ball, and that's why you can finish over easier. If you pick the ball late, well, that's where you start feeling a little arm problems. That's where, you're taking it late, and then you do these awkward motions that fire up the wrong muscles in your arm. So making sure you get the ball in front of you. Lastly, you want to always finish through your shot. Like I said before, if you don't finish through and you finish the incorrect way, there's going to be long-term injuries, and that's where your tennis elbow will come out and show, right? Make sure when you're finishing through a shot, especially any ground stroke, any volley, even serves, right? You always got to make sure you finish all the way through, and making sure when you finish all the way through, just trust and let the racket do the work. Don't force anything to happen, right? Let the racket do its job, and your wrist and your body will understand that.
All right, so the one thing that I've seen a ton of lately is people holding the serve grip wrong. So everybody that I've seen for some reason is holding it like this.
That's what we call the pancake grip.
The pancake grip. Like you're flipping eggs or whatever here, okay? This is not the right grip, guys. I know it's natural and we all start this way, and there's never going to be any kind of pronation here hitting it like this. Okay? The only pronation is just a broken wrist right here. Okay? So let's hold it correctly. How do you hold your grip, Coach?
I always hold the Continental Grip. So there's a lot of terms people call it. So I usually call this the hammer grip, is because just imagine if you're holding a hammer and you're nailing something down, this is the grip that you want to use. So Continental, make sure it's the middle bevel here, right on this middle bevel. I'm putting where my hands make a little check mark. In the middle of that check mark, I'm putting it right there. That's my Continental grip. So make sure when you're serving, you're practicing, right? It's never the Pancake Grip. It's always a Continental, or in my case, the Hammer Grip.
Grip it right. Don't grip it tight. All right. Follow the progressions. Finish up. Loose. Everything. Okay. Coach Gu, anything else to add?
Make sure if you still you're gonna feel sore no matter what if you still have tennis elbow. That stuff will keep occurring, but make sure to avoid or just basically make sure you maintain that injury and just make sure you actually heal it, or just make sure you take care of it. Always stretch. Always do your pre-warm-ups. Do exercises before you play and after you play, because therefore when you're at least if you stop and you don't stretch, that's why we tell most kids we have to stretch, is because if you don't stretch, your body just completely shuts down and it's getting tighter and tighter. Therefore, you're prone to more injury. So make sure you're doing your warm-ups right, you're doing the stretches, and also you're doing those exercises that whoever recommended to you, like your coach or your PT. Just make sure you stick to those routines.
All right. So I want to thank Coach Gu for hanging out with me today and showing you the way of pronation correctly. Coach Gu, where can we find you?
You can find me at ag.tennis and also be posting content there as well.
All right. Thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.